My name is Karim Kanji. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are talking about startups and energy with a good friend and guest for today, Mr. Faizal Karmali, who is the co-founder and partner with a company called Quinzee.
That's right.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Karim.
Yeah, no worries. I guess the first question that most people are going to have, even before we get into exactly what the company does and what problem you guys are looking to solve, is what does Quinzee mean?
Quinzee, well, it's a common question, and I'm glad we've actually got a good story for it.
Yes.
We're a Canadian company, and it's a lot of Canadiana. It's very much about a shelter, a home. There's two ways to build a shelter in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
We're out camping as Boy Scouts, you might recall. One's an igloo, which most people know about.
Yeah.
You take chunks of ice and mount them up, and there you have a snow shelter of sorts. And then the other is a Quinzee. And a Quinzee, you pile up a mound of snow, probably about 4 feet high, and you let it set, and the snow recrystallizes and gels, and then you dig out a shelter from that mound of snow, and that's called a Quinzee.
Yeah.
And what's great about a Quinzee is that even when it's really cold outside, minus 20 degrees, if you build it right, and you build it smart, it's a very efficient shelter. It's a very efficient home. If you do anything excessive, make it too big, make it too wide, make it too small, it doesn't really function very well anymore. And so, the driving force behind Quinzee as a company, as well as the shelter, is that things in excess just don't make sense.
And so the name also relates to what the company does and what you guys are looking to solve. So if you could, why don't you explain that? What is it that Quinzee does? What do people do with the brand, with the company?
Sure. I mean, the company's about helping people save money and energy.
Yeah.
We're in a sector where everyone's a customer. Everyone somehow, directly or indirectly, pays an energy bill.
Yeah.
Everyone's a customer of a utility company. So everyone's spending loads of money. And most people, you ask how much they spend a year. How much do you spend a year on utilities?
I don't know.
No idea. That's and how much do you think an all-inclusive vacation to Cuba costs?
One person or two people?
Two people.
The last time I went, it cost me $2,000.
$2,000. All right. How much time did you spend making that $2,000 decision?
A lot of time.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
So the average North American spends about 6 to 9 minutes making a decision on $2,000 a year of energy use.
Wow.
Costs about $2,000 a year, $1,500 to $2,000 a year per family.
Wow.
And everyone's completely disengaged. They'll spend 6 hours deciding on the right resort to pick, and no time engaging with another $2,000 they're spending every year. It's a $2,000 annual subscription that you have no choice about. Where you do have a choice is how you use that electricity.
Sure.
And there's lots of things that we can do that won't change the quality of our lives. It's not about living in the dark or keeping the house really cold in the winter or really warm in the summer.
Yeah.
It's about just using what we have in a smart way. And Quinzee enables you to do that. It helps you be smarter about the resources that you're using, specifically with electricity.
How does it do that?
So there's a few things it does. We're really fortunate in Ontario that just about every house and small business has what's called a smart meter installed on the outside of the house, and that's measuring your electricity consumption all the time. The days of meter readers are gone.
Yeah.
Those folks are in the museum somewhere where you have someone come by your house and read your meter every couple months.
No more.
No more. Now you've got this smart meter that sends this consumption data to your utility every single day.
Yeah.
And it's broken down by the hour. You as a customer should have access to that information. It's meant to empower you so you know when and how you're using your electricity.
So Toronto Hydro knows the energy use of my home?
Yes.
All right, so I should be able to call them or go on their website or something to be able to access.
And some of the utilities like Toronto Hydro or PowerStream, you do have access to that data.
Okay.
I don't know how much you like Excel spreadsheets.
No.
I'm not a big fan of them myself as a layman user. I don't want to have to interpret a complicated graph or an Excel spreadsheet.
So that's all they're going to
have
give
access to the data.
They're going to give you like columns of here's your numbers, and you're looking at it and you go, okay.
So what?
Meaning what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what Quinzee does is answer that question.
Interesting.
And you sit there and say, so what?
Yeah.
Quinzee will let you know, here's what that means.
Okay.
Here's when your heaviest use times are. Here's what you could do to actually change and reduce those costs without changing the quality of your life. We do the interpretation for you.
That's very interesting. Let me take a step back, because it's a very, very innovative idea. How did the idea for this type of service come around? I know that you started a business called Environmental Data Analytics and Communications, and even before that, I remember seeing you at a Green Living show a couple of years ago as I'm chasing around my son, and you're at a booth there. How did this journey start for you?
Well, I spent 10 years primarily in developing countries, in Africa and Asia, and in places where the fact that our resources as a planet are limited were very evident. You didn't have electricity every day. Access to water wasn't as easy as as we have it here in North America. Even things like food, all the kinds of things we take for granted and are really wasteful about. It was almost impossible to be wasteful about it in these other contexts. You just can't because there isn't enough. So by the nature of that dynamic, people are automatically smarter about how they use their resources. So that's something that kind of started to seep into my mind, seeing this happen for a decade. And then I came back to North America.
Were you working in energy?
I was working, particularly at the end, working on some major energy projects in East Africa. We're doubling the generation capacity. So I was on the generation side with a large hydropower project on the Nile, which is fascinating. But the impact of energy and what that was going to do to the country's economy was phenomenal. So energy was really in the forefront, particularly near the end of that 10 years. And so when I was deciding what to do after business school, I looked at Ontario and said, maybe it's time to go back. Ontario's got the Green Energy Act, lots of great policy that's in place. There's a lot of buzz around clean technology and green energy and being sustainable, a lot of talk, at least. I thought, all right, it looks like it's a good enabling environment to work in energy. And so I came back, and the first thing I noticed was what a culture of excess we have. We sit by really big windows and leave the lights on, and we don't need them all day. We often toss away half the food we've bought or on our plates. We leave the water running all the time. We use treated water for our toilets. All sorts of things that just don't make sense. I don't need drinking water in my toilet. But it's the norm.
It's there.
It's the norm, right? And so there's this general
I didn't know it was drink. Now I know
it's potable. If you're stuck on a rough day, you can reach into that tank. Don't hold me to that. There's a general culture of excess. We're a pretty gluttonous society, but not intentionally. It's just a matter of not knowing. We're disconnected from the fact that these resources are limited. And it's, with the population growing and dynamics even in North America changing, it's not unlimited. We don't have unlimited access to everything. And the fact that smart meters were put on every house in Ontario really put Ontario at the cutting edge of what was going on with electricity use and smart electricity use. It's just a smart way of managing the grid for the utilities. And so when I came back, I worked in energy efficiency for a while. Worked with a great company called the Summerhill Group that designs and implements energy efficiency programs across Canada with utilities. I also ran a solar company for about a year, getting a feel for what that technology was doing for the energy sector. Looking to get involved in innovation happening in North America that's going to have an impact around the world. Ontario's at, again, the cutting edge of clean energy in a lot of people's eyes. And I wanted to ride that wave. That's the end of the side of the wave I want to be on, is kind of where it's thrusting forward. And so after working in energy efficiency and solar for a while, we realized that in energy efficiency, the innovation that was happening was still largely coupons being sent out to every Ontarian to buy energy efficient products, light bulbs or washing machines or refrigerators. But coupons was the cutting edge of innovation, despite the fact that the environment here was, high-tech smart meters on every house, collecting all this really important data. And we weren't using that data to inform our decisions.
You were connecting the data to, here's the reason you should maybe get this sort of washing machine is because, you know, your data is showing you this. If you use this, this is what's going to happen, rather than incentivizing with a coupon, incentivizing with information.
Yeah, information and natural behavior, connecting people with their behaviors.
Yeah.
For the most part, when someone flicks on their dishwasher, they don't think about the resources required to run that dishwasher. It's just not something we do.
Sure.
That's a function I need to do, and it does it.
Yeah.
We are, in general, disconnected from the actions we take and the resources required to make those things happen.
That's very interesting.
And it affects our wallets. I mean, ultimately,
sure.
You know, we can sing off the rooftops about saving the environment. Strong message is that, you know, it's like burning money. Energy efficiency and behaviors in your house are like seeing money on the floor and sweeping them into the garbage instead of picking them up and putting them in your wallet.
Now you're relating to people.
Little things you can do around your house that don't change the quality of your life massively. Sometimes not at all. Some things that have no cost associated with them. It's just a behavior change.
Yeah.
Plugging all my TV stereo equipment into a power bar is not changing the quality of my life. Flicking that switch off when I leave the house is not changing the quality of my life.
Sure.
It didn't really even cost me anything.
Yeah.
Maybe a $15 power bar.
Yeah.
Now, that little behavior change has no cost, no effect on the quality of my life.
Yeah.
Can save me, when I do that with all my little peripheral devices that are plugged in all over the place, can save me up to $200 a year. 10% of my bill is stuff that's just always plugged in. It's just a small behavior change.
Yeah.
It'll save you a couple $100 a year. Now, you add that up across Ontario, a simple thing like, if everyone were to just use CFL light bulbs, the savings generated in the economy would be about $1.4 billion in Ontario.
Wow.
So the fact that when we aggregate all these small little behaviors,
it adds up to a lot.
It adds up. But for me as an individual at home, I'm so far removed from $1.4 billion.
Sure.
And so a large part of what Quinzee does is starts to make those connections between what you do, what's normal for people like you, what's normal for people in your neighborhood. We're definitely trying to socialize energy use a bit.
Sure.
It's something that happens what's called behind the meter. Inside
here's
your house.
Here's what your neighbors are doing. You know, they're leading you. They're being more energy efficient, more wise about their energy use, and you sort of want to be that person that has the better looking lawn.
Absolutely, yeah. You always want to be on the right side of the average.
Yes.
It's human nature.
We
all, in general, I think we're above average about everything we do in life.
Yeah.
The reality is half the people are below average. And
interesting.
Just letting them know actually influences people's behaviors.
Yeah.
And Quinzee starts to let you know what's normal for a household like yours, for a family like yours.
So Quinzee is endeavoring to help households, help businesses, help consumers, in essence, keep more money rather than give it away to the utility companies, to the energy companies, the power companies. Is it in the best interest of, let's say, Toronto Hydro to have me and you spend less money with them?
So you would think that as a business, you wouldn't want to buy or get your customers to invest in getting your customers to give you less money.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to make business sense.
Sure.
The challenge in the utility world, and why this is very interesting for them, is that until very recently, the relationship between you and your utility has ended outside your home. They needed to deliver electricity, you got it, you paid your bill.
That was it, of course.
The industry around the world, particularly in North America, is starting to change, where, like every other industry, whether it was the telephone industry, all the other service industries, the value of knowing your customer and knowing what matters to them and how they behave is really important for you in terms of how you're going to effectively service them.
Okay.
Right now, the utilities are short of good communication channels with their customers. This is a small tool that they're able to provide to their customers that keep their customers engaged with their energy use and becomes a two-way communication channel as well for them.
Okay.
And so while there may be a small loss in revenue because people are using a little bit less. What they do now have is an engaged customer base.
And possibly increased loyalty?
Increased loyalty, because that's going to be changing over time. Right now, you don't really have a choice.
I was going to say
who
that.
You buy your electricity from.
Yeah.
You look at markets in the U.S. and what's happened in the U.S. over the last decade. Increased privatization. There's lots of indicators that are suggesting that's kind of the general direction the sector is heading in here. Even if it's not, the utilities themselves understand that for them to use their money wisely, they're doing marketing, they're doing billing, they're doing all sorts of incentive programs that they're mandated to do by the government as well. In order to use those funds intelligently, they need a better understanding of who their customers are. And Quinzee enables a lot of that understanding to happen. It's tied to knowing what your customers perceive about energy, knowing what they feel about it, knowing how they behave. Behind the meter, it's all inside people's homes. And understanding what people's choices and perceptions are behind the meter is really difficult. Quinzee provides them an avenue to better understand what matters to their customers.
Interesting. So it's almost a tool for both the power companies and consumers like me. And I'm curious about we're in the fall season. So it would seem to me that the demand on the grid is less than what we've just gone through in terms of the summertime, where ACs are running 24/7. It seems. Is there a use for that the power company would seem in a tool like Quinzee, having their consumers use a tool like Quinzee, where the less demand on them means they're able to have a summer where there's no brownouts or blackouts or the possibilities of such?
That's one of the biggest challenges for the utility companies. Again, Quinzee is an incredibly valuable tool for the end user and the homeowner and the person who pays the utility bills. One of the greatest values for the utilities is around those really hot days in the summer. Unfortunately, the grid in places like Toronto is really old. And it takes a long time to upgrade those poles and wires and transformers. A lot of them are 60 to 70 to 80 years old.
Wow.
And we've seen the growth in cities like Toronto explode.
Well, even this summer, it seemed like there were more condos being built than ever before.
And every one of those houses needs electricity.
Yeah.
It's a given. I'm not going to move into a condo and not getting electricity. So every one of those units in every one of those condos requires more power. Now, we're lucky in Ontario, we don't have a shortage of electricity being generated. That's not the issue. It isn't right now. The challenge is, once it gets delivered to Toronto, and then Toronto Hydro needs to distribute it to all these places, and they have 80-year-old transformers and poles and wires, the grid within the city has difficulty getting that power everywhere.
Interesting.
And on really hot days, we get really close, and sometimes we cross that line of capacity in the grid, in the local grid. And on those days, right now, you hear mass broadcasts. Everyone, please use a little less electricity. Turn down your AC by a couple degrees. Please, go out for dinner, whatever it might be. It's a megaphone announcement through newspapers and radio.
Absolutely.
What Quinzee enables utility to do is they know specific consumers and their behaviors, when they use the most power, when they don't, who's responsive to advice and insights, and communicate directly to them on really hot days. Say, hey, if you go and turn your AC down by 2 degrees, we'll give you $5 off your next bill. Incent them somehow.
Sure.
And that collective $5 per family that actually responds, and you can measure that response because we've got a smart meter that will tell you whether or not they did it, is a lot cheaper than having a brownout happen or a blackout happening.
Interesting.
Toronto Hydro, we've learned recently, is actually investing $2 billion in transformers just to manage that peak demand. Those 6 to 12 days a year when the grid is really close to peak. And you need a way to shift power and move it around and control demand. That's a massive investment for controlling 6 to 12 days of people's behaviors, really. And one of our advisors and supporters kind of laughed and said, Quinzee's kind of like a $2 billion tweet. Because instead of buying $2 billion of transformers and equipment, If you just have a solid relationship with your customers, you can let the right people know at the right time in the right areas what they need to do.
Wow.
So that the grid continues to function effectively.
I like that one. Quinzee's a $2 billion tweet.
$2 billion tweet.
I like that one. Faisal, let's change directions a little bit. When people think of startups, they think of sexy things like, especially here in Toronto, you've got a burgeoning video game or gaming community that's growing. You have companies that are building apps by the hundreds, whether it's games apps or whether it's, apps for their clients, on the iPhone or Android or now the Windows 7, and now Windows 8, the Microsoft platform. You hear about all these, people developing new websites and new cool little things. I'm curious about where Quinzee sits in and what your thoughts are in terms of the community here in Toronto, in terms of the startup community, and sort of, Quinzee doesn't necessarily fit into the traditional thoughts of what people think of when they think of Toronto's tech startup community.
Sure.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's a couple things that I've seen over the last, 2.5 years playing in this space. One of the things is that a lot of these startups, and they're incredibly innovative and lots of passion, lots of energy.
Yeah.
They're spending a lot of that passion and energy trying to create new markets. They're trying to create an entirely new demand in a new market with a new technology and something that's totally out of the blue and revolutionary.
Yeah.
Which is great and very exciting.
Yeah.
But can get very frustrating. Where Quinzee ended up being different was we saw a market that already existed. We said, hey, everyone buys electricity.
Yeah.
Everyone's a customer somehow.
Yeah.
If you rent, maybe not directly,
sure,
you're still paying for your electricity.
Yeah.
Everyone is somehow connected to electricity. There is a market already there. What does that market need? Oh, it's the utility sector. You get a yawn out of some people, and you're like, oh my god, it's a slow-moving sector, and not really known for innovation.
Sure.
And for us, we're like, all right, let's leave the technology risk behind. Let's find something that works. Web and mobile.
Yeah.
The idea of an app.
Yeah.
The idea of getting information back in the hands of people in an interesting way, gaming to a certain extent. How do we apply those kind of startup buzzwords and startup phenomenons to an older industry that's on the verge of change? And instead of waiting for it to change, and instead of creating a market, we go to an old market and make the change happen there.
Interesting.
And so we kind of, in a way, were flipped upside down.
Yeah.
We looked at an old industry and said, how do we bring all this cutting-edge, interesting technology to an old industry?
To them, yeah. You're not really creating something new. You're taking the data that's already there anyways, and doing something very interesting. What has been your, your thoughts in terms of the support? A lot of people talk about in Toronto, there's a lot of things going on, but you've got all of these initiatives, whether it's a Sprout Up, or whether it is a Third Tuesday Toronto, and all of these meetups and such, mobile startups, TO, the Yorkville Media Center, all of these initiatives that are open and available for entrepreneurs like yourself and startup entrepreneurs like yourself to plug into and gain access. What has been the response that you've received from the startup community, and any sort of help that you've had along the way?
I mean, what's great about that whole ecosystem is that it's a great cheerleading squad. Once you're in, and it's not very difficult to get into that community, you eventually just need to show up at an event. It's incredibly encouraging. There's lots of small learnings that are specific to the environment in Toronto that are shared in these communities. It really is a bit of a source of fuel to kind of keep your energy going and keep trying something new. The response with Quinzee's kind of been interesting. We're not here with the new cool game. Like, oh yeah, we're building a customer engagement platform for utilities. Like, electricity. And it's not
at
face value sexy. when you start looking at the numbers, it becomes very sexy.
Sure.
As to what's possible. You know, an industry spending one utility spending $2 billion to solve a very specific problem that you can address using technology is very exciting, is very sexy. That story needs to get told, because I'm sure there are other industries like that, other opportunities like that.
Sure.
That aren't part of, they're not top of mind. Everyone's thinking, I gotta create the next new game, I gotta create the next new stickiest marketing piece out there.
Yeah.
There's also, what's really interesting for me is the startup ecosystem has this whole other ecosystem of startups that are providing services to startups.
Yeah.
There's, you know, a startup community that's there to make life better for startups, which is really interesting. It just makes the ecosystem that much bigger.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see that it's a vibrant community. We've heard a lot of people kind of talking about the fact that, oh, this is starting to feel a bit like San Francisco. And in a way, I don't ever want to hear that. I just want to hear that actually Toronto is Toronto.
Yeah.
It's got its own vibe.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't feel like there's been loads and loads of big success stories come out yet. That's partly due with the number of startups, but it's a burgeoning sector. It's great to see how much activity there is, and it's the mix of teenagers to people in their 40s and 50s and 60s who are engaged in the space.
Awesome.
So it's not specific to any one kind of demographic or one kind of personality, one kind of background, which makes it that much more of a supportive and strong learning environment.
Yeah. I am curious about, I guess, some of the, you know, taking a look at your website. You know, who are some of the partners? Because it's, you know, based on what you've told me, you don't come from a tech background or a design background. So what sort of partnerships were important to you, and who are some of the people that you've kind of teamed up with to help kind of give Quinzee a brand and a look and a feel?
Sure. I mean, what was unique about myself and my business partner, Lee Bremer, is that we came with really strong domain knowledge.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, this sector needs this kind of technology.
Yeah.
Here's what this technology needs to do.
Yeah.
Here's how it'll make money.
Yeah.
And then we looked at each other and said, can you code? And we debated learning to code when it picked up, you know, a couple of the coding for dummies, essentially books.
Yeah.
And then laughed and returned them to the bookstore. And realized that we needed some key partners. And we looked at a few different options, as many startups do. We look at, you know, finding a technical co-founder, hiring someone in-house, outsourcing overseas. And we realized that what we needed wasn't a minimum viable product. We needed a minimum desirable product.
Okay.
And there's
what does that mean?
strong distinction in that. So for us, a minimum viable product, we could have had Quinzee be very functional and provide all the functions that we wanted it to do, but it wouldn't necessarily be desirable yet. And we are selling the product as enterprise software for utilities. And to go to them with a very skeletal, maybe not so polished looking piece of work that was very functional and fulfilled their needs, it didn't make business sense.
Okay.
And so we need to take it up one level to have a minimum desirable product. In order to do that, we want to be very hands-on. We weren't comfortable outsourcing. It's hard to find a software developer in Toronto because they're really busy doing all sorts of great things. It's such a vibrant community. And so we ended up deciding to work very closely with what we think are two great organizations in Toronto. On the coding and development side, we worked with the working group, who have been incredibly insightful. They've got a great background in terms of the technology development and knowing what's going to need to happen to make this work. And on the design side, and the user interface side, user experience side, we were able to convince Jet Cooper this was a worthy product to work on. And they both, the working group and Jet Cooper, got very excited about the idea because it wasn't just an app.
Yeah.
You know, it was they were contributing to what was going to become a business.
Yeah.
Which is very different from a lot of projects that may come to them. And so we had a great team from the working group and Jet Cooper work with us to bring Quinzee to life.
Nice.
In this first version.
Nice. This is your first startup?
This is my first startup that's gone this far.
Okay.
I post business school looked at a couple, again in the energy sector, a couple of startups. One in carbon credit trading.
Okay.
Tied to microfinance loans for clean energy products. It was a great idea to fit into the social enterprise category.
Okay.
With a bit of due diligence, we realized it was more social and less enterprise than we were comfortable with, and so that we didn't go forward with that. And the other business we looked into was actually providing off-grid solar power in Uganda, in East Africa, where I was living. Fortunately, the appetite, that's a high capital investment to start that business, even though it did make business sense. But trying to get that off the ground in July 2009, when no one wanted to invest in anything, no one had any money for anything.
Interesting.
The timing just wasn't right.
Wasn't there.
Opportunity. And so this one seems to have worked out. We've got something that's got the right timing, some low capital investment, and it has, which is really important for me, both a financial and an environmental return.
How are you enjoying startup life?
So far, great. Lots of days where you sweat more than you'd like to.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a 10-second phone call on one day can make you pull your hair out, and a 2-second phone call the next day will make you feel like you're floating in the clouds.
Nice.
The idea of it being a roller coaster is definitely true.
Yeah.
But it is an entirely fulfilling exercise to decide that there's some change that needs to happen, and you're not going to wait for someone else to do it. Lee and I were both sitting there saying, this should happen. Someone should do this. And 2 seconds later, we looked at each other and said, we should do it. Like, there is no point waiting for someone else. And that's part of the joy of entrepreneurship.
How did you meet up with Lee? He's a very different character.
He is a very different
than
character.
You are.
He's a different character for sure. We actually share, we're alumni from the same business school in France and Singapore. We didn't meet there, but it's a fairly tight-knit alumni community here.
Yeah.
And so we started to get together at these events and started chatting and realized that we both had a passion for change.
Yeah.
Was one thing that was definitely in common. We both want to lead that change and not watch it happen or wait for it to happen. And we both had a strong interest and expertise in energy. And the fact that we were both sitting in Ontario, wanting something change to happen, to be part of it ourselves in Ontario, it just made sense for us.
Made sense for this in this area. And is he working part-time as a comedian in the evenings?
He is not. He works full-time as a comedian all day long.
All day long.
Yeah.
The hardest thing as an entrepreneur, what would that be?
At this point, I think there's, depending on when you ask someone that question, what point in the cycle they're at, or what point in the process they're at. Sales.
And sales.
You're already sold on the idea.
Sure.
And so remembering that not everyone is sold on the idea. They haven't been with you on that journey. It's tough to keep going to clients and being like, this is something you need. This is something you said you needed. And we're ready to provide it for you. And to be willing to get 100 no's with the confidence that the yeses are coming. Even a couple of maybes are great. Those days they're sitting in cloud nine. I'm like, we got a maybe. That's great.
Nice.
But riding that trajectory of pushing and selling and selling and selling, and talking to people you've never met before, convincing them that you're worth their time. Finding the right people to talk to are among some of the biggest challenges for sure.
What's the best reward so far?
The best reward so far, well, it took us, I'd say 7 or 8 months to get to the point where we launched the product. That was a big milestone for us. The day of the launch, we actually sat there and said, hey, this was just an idea that we were waiting for someone else to do 7 months ago.
And now you've done it.
And now we've done it. And it's here, and people are using it, and people are giving us feedback already, which is great. People are signing up every day. We encourage people to go to Quinzee.ca, sign up, start understanding your energy use, learn how to save money, save energy. know where you stand compared to your neighbors and other people like you. We're going to have some leaderboards soon, I hope.
Interesting.
So that you'll be able to compete with different groups. We do want to have more of a gaming element to it, more of a kind of social side to it. It's what's happening in the market. Sure. And we want to be there for it. So. Absolutely.
You just mentioned the website, Quinzee.ca, and that is Quinzee.ca. How else can people engage and find out more information about what you guys got going on?
So I'd argue we've got a great blog. Yeah. We try and talk about contemporary issues and relate them to energy in a fun way. And that's blog.quinzee.ca. You can also get at it through the Quinzee website. Yep. We're of course present on Facebook and Twitter as well. And you can find us at community events. We're hoping to participate in several community events, whether they're farmers markets, whether they're green festivals. We're out there pounding the pavement, trying to help people learn about Quinzee and about their energy use, more importantly.
Fantastic. So if you are a consumer, if you live,
you pay a utility bill,
if you work, whether it's you or your parents or your boss, you guys are using energy, give them something valuable. Say, hey boss, here's a way you can save some money.
Yeah, we've got a great pitch for high school students.
Awesome.
You know, you get your family to save $200 a year, you can split the savings with your parents.
There you go. Yeah. So go to Quinzee.ca, look for the bright red button that says sign up for free, and I guess get on your way to what you call a new normal.
Absolutely.
And start saving some money, start making an impact. That's Quinzee.ca, one of Toronto's and Canada's and the world's newest and most innovative startups. Go check them out. Thank you for joining us and thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Again, my name is Karim Kanji. You can find me on Twitter at Karim Kanji. And we look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye-bye.